Take a deep breath and let the weight of the modern day begin to dissolve, like salt in a slow-moving stream. As we turn our minds back toward a time when the world was measured not by seconds or minutes, but by the steady, unhurried pulse of the earth itself. Imagine the air around you growing cooler and more fragrant, carrying the scent of damp earth, crushed herbs, and the faint, sweet musk of waking life, as we drift away from the glow of screens and the hum of engines, toward a landscape painted in the softest shades of pre-dawn grey. Here, in this ancient place, the horizon is a gentle curve of velvet hills, and the sky is a vast, silent expanse of indigo, waiting for the first brushstroke of light to announce a day that moves with the grace of a slow-turning wheel. You are standing at the edge of a field that has been tended by hands for generations, a patch of ground that knows the weight of a human footstep and the patience of a germinating seed. And as you listen, you can hear the symphony of the stillness, the whisper of the wind through the tall, wild grasses at the margins, the rhythmic creak of a distant wooden gate, and the soft, rhythmic breathing of the land as it prepares to wake. There is no urgency here, no demand for haste, for the soil does not understand the concept of a deadline. It only understands the seasons, the rain, and the quiet, enduring partnership between the people who walk upon it and the life that stirs beneath its surface. As the first hint of pale gold begins to bleed into the eastern sky, casting long, soft shadows across the furrows, you feel a profound sense of belonging, a realization that this rhythm is a part of you, an ancestral memory of a time when the work of the hands was a meditation and the growth of a crop was a long, slow conversation with the divine. The light grows just enough to reveal the texture of the soil at your feet, dark, rich, and crumbly, holding within it the secrets of 1,000 winters and the promise of 1,000 springs, and you find yourself walking forward with a step so light it barely disturbs the dew clinging to the clover. Every movement in this world is deliberate and meaningful, from the way a farmer might run a hand over a wooden plough, feeling the grain of the timber and the history of the forest it came from, to the way the oxen low softly in their stalls, their breath blooming like white flowers in the cool morning air. This is a place where time stretches out like a long, winding road through a valley, where the act of planting a single seed is a gesture of immense faith, a quiet agreement that we will wait, we will watch, and we will move in harmony with the natural world rather than trying to bend it to our will. You can hear the distant, melodic call of a bird hidden in the thicket, a sound that seems to punctuate the silence without breaking it, a reminder that even in the deepest quiet, the world is vibrantly, peacefully alive. As you move deeper into the fields, the air begins to warm ever so slightly, carrying the aroma of wood smoke from a small stone dwelling nearby, a scent that speaks of warmth, home, and the simple comforts of a hearth that has burned since the beginning of memory. There is a profound beauty in the simplicity of the tools leaning against a stone while the curved blade of a sickle, the sturdy handle of a hoe, the woven texture of a seed basket, each one smoothed by the touch of countless palms, each one a testament to a life lived in direct contact with the elements. You feel the coolness of the morning mist against your skin, a refreshing veil that blurs the edges of the world and makes everything feel soft, ethereal, and safe, as if you were being cradled in the very palms of the earth. The rhythms of this life are like the beating of a heart, steady, reliable, and deeply restorative, and, as you surrender to them, you find that your own breathing begins to slow, matching the pace of the rising sun and the swaying of the grain. There is no conflict here, only the grand, slow-motion drama of existence, where the greatest event is the unfurling of a leaf or the arrival of a rain cloud on the horizon. The soil under your feet feels solid and supportive, a foundation that has held up civilizations and yet remains as humble and receptive as it was on the first day of creation. You imagine the hands that have worked this ground before you, strong, calloused, and kind hands that knew how to read the clouds and the behavior of the birds. Hands that understood that you cannot rush the harvest any more than you can rush the stars across the sky. In this ancient landscape, farming is a form of prayer, a daily ritual of care and observation that connects the human spirit to the vast, interlocking cycles of the cosmos. You watch as a thin, silver thread of water trickles through a narrow irrigation channel, its soft babbling providing a constant, soothing soundtrack to the morning, a reminder of the life-giving fluid that sustains every blade of grass and every living soul. The shadows of the trees begin to shorten as the sun climbs higher, but the light remains soft, filtered through a light haze that gives the entire valley the appearance of a dream made manifest in stone and silt. You find yourself sitting on a large, flat rock at the edge of the cultivated land, watching the way the light catches the dew on a spider's web, turning it into a necklace of diamonds strung between two stalks of barley. There is a deep, resonant peace in knowing that for today, and for all the tomorrows that follow in this place, the only task is to be present, to observe, and to move with the gentle currents of the natural world. The oxen are led out into the light now, their massive forms moving with a slow, majestic dignity, their hooves thudding softly on the earth in a heartbeat rhythm that seems to ground everything in reality. They do not hurry, for they know their strength and they know the work, and there is a quiet understanding between them and the person who guides them up. Bond of mutual respect and shared labor that transcends words. You see the first furrow being turned, the dark earth rolling over like a heavy blanket, releasing a scent that is the very essence of life itself, mineral, organic, and ancient. It is a scent that fills your lungs and calms your mind, a scent that tells you that you are home, that you are part of something much larger than yourself, something that began long before you arrived and will continue long after you depart. The sun is a warm touch on your shoulders now, not yet hot, but enough to chase away the last of the night's chill, inviting you to relax even further into the stillness. You watch a hawk circling high above, a tiny speck against the vast blue. Its effortless soaring, a reflection of the ease with which life flows here when we stop resisting the pull of the seasons. The landscape is a tapestry of greens, browns, and golds, woven together by the patient labor of generations who understood that the land is not something to be conquered, but a partner to be cherished. As you sit there, the world seems to expand, the horizon pushing back to reveal more hills, more valleys, and more fields, all waking up in this same unhurried way. You think of the seeds resting in their dark cradles, sensing the warmth of the sun and the moisture in the earth, beginning their invisible journey toward the light with a persistence that is both quiet and unstoppable. There is no noise here that jars the senses. Instead, there is a layering of sounds that create a dense, comforting texture, the rustle of a tunic, the clink of a stone being moved, the soft whistle of a farmer to his team, and the persistent, underlying hum of the insects beginning their day in the clover. It is a world where every action is a response to a natural cue, where the timing of the sow and the reap is dictated by the stars and the wind rather than a ticking clock. You feel a sense of profound gratitude for this slowness, for the opportunity to simply be a witness to the unfolding of a day that has no agenda other than to exist and to nourish. The path ahead is a simple one, made of packed earth and bordered by wild herbs like thyme and rosemary, their fragrance rising up to meet you as you eventually stand and begin to walk once more. Each step is a meditation, a conscious connection to the ground that supports you, and you find that the tension in your muscles is melting away, replaced by a fluid, easy strength. The ancient farmers knew that to work the land was to be in a constant state of listening to the thirst of the soil, the health of the stalks, and the subtle shifts in the atmosphere that heralded a change in the weather. This attentiveness created a deep intimacy with the world, a sense of being woven into the very fabric of the ecosystem, and you can feel that intimacy beginning to take root in your own heart as you wander through this peaceful realm. The fields are not just a source of food, but a source of meaning, a place where the human story is written in the rows of wheat and the orchards of olive trees. You pass an old olive tree, its trunk twisted and silvered by time, its roots reaching deep into the stony earth to find the hidden springs that sustain it through the dry months. It stands as a silent witness to centuries of sunrises, a monument to the endurance and the quiet strength that characterizes this way of life. You reach out and touch the bark, feeling its rough, resilient texture, and you realize that you, too, have roots that go deep into the past, into this shared human history of tending and growing. The light is now a rich, buttery yellow, illuminating the dust motes that dance in the air like tiny, golden spirits, and the whole world feels as though it is glowing from within. As you step further into the awakening valley, your feet find a narrow path worn smooth by generations of sandals and bare soles. A line of passage that feels less like a road and more like a physical memory etched into the crust of the world. The ground here is transitionary, moving from the wild, unkempt heath into the first true fields where the wild grasses were long ago invited to stay and grow in orderly rows. And as you walk, you feel the profound intimacy of a landscape that has been truly known by the people who dwell within it. In these early communities, the relationship with the earth was not one of mastery, but of a deep, quiet listening, a constant observation of the subtle shifts in the color of the soil. After a rain, or the specific way the morning mist clings to the low-lying hollows, you can see the small, circular clusters of dwellings made of sun-dried mud and straw, their rounded shapes echoing the curves of the hills around them, appearing as if they have simply grown out of the earth rather than being built upon it. There is a gentle smoke rising from a communal hearth, a thin blue ribbon that unravels against the pale sky, carrying the scent of dried peat and seasoned oak, a smell that has signaled safety and belonging since the first seeds were pressed into the loam. You watch an elder sit on a low stone wall at the edge of the grain, their hands moving with a slow, practiced grace as they sift a handful of dark earth, letting the grains fall through their fingers like the sands of a primitive hourglass. This act of touching the soil is a way of reading the story of the coming year, sensing the moisture held deep within the clods and the warmth that is beginning to radiate from the heart of the world. To these people, the soil was a living archive, a repository of every season that had come before, and they understood that the fertility of the land was a gift to be nurtured with patience and reverence. There is no haste in the planting here, for the hands that scatter the seed know that growth is a secret process that happens in the dark, silent hours of the night, far beneath the surface where the eye cannot see. You feel the weight of this patience settling into your own bones, a realization that the most important work in the world often looks like doing nothing at all, simply waiting for the earth to respond in its own time. The rhythm of the planting is a hypnotic cadent step, reach, scatter, stepper physical prayer that repeats across the field until it becomes a part of the wind itself. Every seed is a tiny vessel of hope, a microscopic promise that the winter will eventually yield to the spring, and the hunger of the lean months will be met by the abundance of the harvest. You notice the way the light reflects off the primitive wooden hoes leaning against a fence, their handles polished to a mirror-like sheen by the oils of 1,000 palms. Each tool an extension of the human body and its desire to collaborate with the wildness of nature. The animals move among the fields with a quiet purpose, the sheep grazing the stubble and the goats picking their way along the rocky ridges, their bells making a soft, intermittent music that keeps the pulse of the morning. These creatures are the companions of the agricultural soul, their presence a reminder that we are all part of a vast, interlocking web of life where every being has its role and its dignity. You find yourself reflecting on the way these ancient farmers read the sky not as a distant abstraction, but as a guide, knowing that the specific shape of a cloud or the direction of a sudden breeze was a message from the elements. They knew the language of the birds, understanding that the low flight of the swallows predicted a coming storm, and the return of the storks heralded the true beginning of the planting season. This connection to the environment created a life of profound stability, a life where the anxieties of the unknown were softened by the reliability of the cycles. Even the nights in this early world were governed by the agricultural calendar, the moon acting as a lantern for the late-hour tasks and the stars serving as a map for the timing of the great festivals of the earth. You can almost feel the coolness of the night air as it must have felt to those who sat outside their doorways, watching the constellations wheel overhead and knowing that the same stars had seen their grandfathers plough these same furrows. There is a restorative power in this continuity, a sense that the individual life is a single stitch in a magnificent, never-ending tapestry. As you walk past a small orchard of young fruit trees, their branches heavy with the first blossoms of the season, you are struck by the fragrance, a delicate, ethereal scent that seems to cleanse the mind and invite a deeper state of rest. These trees were planted not for the person who put them in the ground, but for their children and their children's children, a gesture of selfless love that defines the very essence of the farming life. It is an act of faith in the future, a belief that the world will continue to be beautiful and productive long after we have laid down our tools for the last time. The water in the nearby stream is clear and cold, tumbling over mossy stones with a sound like muffled laughter, and you stop for a moment to watch the way it carves a path through the landscape, always finding the lowest point, always moving toward the sea. The farmers understood this fluid wisdom, designing their irrigation channels to follow the natural contours of the land, working with gravity rather than against it, a metaphor for a life lived in alignment with the natural laws. You find a quiet spot beneath a spreading willow tree, where the ground is covered in a soft carpet of clover and the air is filled with the rhythmic hum of bees visiting the wildflowers. Here, you can feel the pulse of the earth vibrating through the soles of your feet, a slow, steady throb that matches the rhythm of your own heart. The world feels so solid and dependable in this place, a sanctuary where the chaos of the modern mind has no purchase, and the only thing that matters is the present moment. You think about the first people who noticed that a seed dropped by accident would sprout and grow, and how that single observation changed the course of human history, leading us away from the wandering life and toward the hearth and the field. It was a transition from taking to tending, from hunting to helping, a shift that required a new kind of intelligence, one based on empathy, observation, and an endless capacity for waiting. The soil does not give up its secrets easily. It requires a season of rain, a season of sun, and a season of rest. And the ancient farmers respected this need for dormancy as much as they celebrated the time of growth. They knew that the land, like the human spirit, needs periods of quiet and stillness to replenish its strength. And they allowed the fields to lie fallow, covered in wild grasses and the droops of the grazing herds, until the vitality returned to the dark earth. You can feel that same need for rest within yourself, a calling to let your thoughts lie fallow for a while, to stop the constant cultivation of ideas and simply exist in the richness of the silence. The light is changing now, the shadows stretching out across the valley like long, dark fingers, and the colors of the world are deepening into shades of violet and amber. The workday is not ending so much as it is transforming into a different kind of labor, the labor of reflection, of preparing the evening meal, and of settling the animals for the night. You see a young woman walking back toward the village, a woven basket of greens balanced on her hip, her movements fluid and unhurried, as if she is dancing to a music that only she can hear. There is a dignity in her bearing that comes from knowing her place in the world, from knowing that her hands have contributed to the sustenance of her people and the health of the land. The relationship between the farmer and the crop is a form of conversation, a wordless exchange of care and response that builds over months and years until it becomes a bond of blood and bone. You watch the way a man leans over a stubborn piece of ground, using a sharpened stick to make a hole for a bulb, his focus so intense and so calm that he seems to be part of the earth himself. This is the true meaning of patience, the absence of action, but the presence of a steady, unwavering commitment to a process that cannot be rushed. As the sun dips lower, the air grows stiller, the wind dropping to a whisper, and the birds settling into the thickets for the night. The whole valley seems to be taking a deep breath, preparing for the restorative darkness that will allow the seeds to swell and the roots to push deeper into the cool, damp earth. You find yourself drifting into a state of profound peace, your mind as clear and open as the sky above the hills, your body feeling heavy and relaxed against the supportive ground. The memory of the soil is a memory of endurance, of the countless times the sun has risen and set over these fields, and the knowledge that the earth remains, constant and providing, regardless of the passing of ages. You think of the grain growing tall and golden under the summer sun, the sound of the wind through the stalks like the rustle of 1,000 silk garments, a sound that has signaled the coming of the harvest for 10,000 years. There is a sacredness in this continuity, a feeling that by walking through these fields, you are participating in a ritual that connects you to the very dawn of humanity. The first farmers did not see themselves as separate from the land. They were its stewards, its guardians, and its children, and their days were a reflection of the earth's own moods. As the moon climbs higher over the valley of the first fields, the silver light begins to wash over the landscape like a slow-moving tide. And you realize that the stillness you feel is not just the stillness of a single night, but the stillness of a vast, repeating cycle that breathes through the earth in the long, slow rhythm of the seasons. Time here does not snap or click with the sharp edges of a mechanical clock. Instead, it flows like a deep river, wide and unhurried, where each season is a long, sustained inhalation or exhalation of the world's living soul. You feel the cool air of the spring morning returning to your memory, a season that feels like the very first word of a long and beautiful story, where the ground is still heavy with the dampness of winter, but beginning to stir with a restless, quiet energy. The spring is a time of soft, grey light and the scent of crushed willow bark. A season where the ancient farmer moves through the mud with a deliberate, rhythmic pace, feeling the cold vitality of the earth pressing against the soles of their feet. In the spring, the work is a meditation on potential, a period of preparing the cradle for the life to come, where the heavy wooden plough turns the soil with a sound like a deep, tectonic sigh, exposing the dark, rich heart of the land to the warming sky. You can almost feel the texture of the seeds in your palm small, dry and silent, holding within them the blueprint of an entire summer, waiting for the precise moment when the soil is warm enough to receive them. There is no rush to plant, for the farmer knows that to force the earth is to invite failure. They wait for the signal of the first wildflowers in the hedgerow, the specific pitch of the wind as it rolls off the warming mountains, and the way the birds begin to weave the dried grasses into the eaves of the stone huts. When the planting finally begins, it is a symphony of repetition, a dance of hands and earth that continues until the sun dips below the horizon, leaving the fields tucked under a blanket of fine, sifted silt. As the spring matures, the rain falls in soft, vertical veils, a gentle drumming on the thatched roofs that lulls the village into a state of peaceful observation, watching as the first emerald shoots pierce the surface of the soil with a quiet, unstoppable strength. This transition into the greening of the world happens so slowly that you cannot see it move. Yet you wake each morning to find the world slightly more vibrant, the air slightly sweeter with the scent of rising sap and flowering clover. The season of growth, the long and golden summer, arrives not with a shout but with a gradual deepening of the light, until the days stretch out into endless expanses of warmth and stillness. In the height of summer, the fields are a sea of moving shadows, the grain growing tall and flexible, bowing to the slightest movement of the air with a sound like the distant breaking of waves on a sandy shore. The work of the farmer changes now, shifting from the labor of the hands to the labor of the eyes, as they walk the perimeter of the fields in the heat of the afternoon, checking the strength of the stalks and the fullness of the developing heads. The sun is a constant, benevolent presence, a golden weight on the shoulders that encourages a slower pace, a turning inward toward the shade of the great oak trees at the edge of the cultivated land. You imagine sitting in that shade, the air around you shimmering with heat, while the only sound is the rhythmic, hypnotic drone of the cicadas in the high branches, a sound that seems to define the very essence of a summer afternoon. There is a profound sense of security in this growth, a feeling that the earth is fulfilling its promise, turning the light of the sun and the minerals of the deep ground into the substance of life. The heat of the day eventually gives way to the lavender-scented evenings, where the warmth radiates back up from the stone walls and the earth itself, creating a world that feels like a warm embrace, a sanctuary where nothing is required but to exist and to witness. You feel your own breath slowing to match the slow, steady expansion of the summer, a time when the world is at its most full and most vibrant, yet remains anchored in a deep, underlying tranquility. Then, almost imperceptibly, the light begins to change again, taking on a richer, more honeyed hue as the year turns toward the autumn. The transition is marked by the smell of drying grass and the sight of the first golden leaves drifting onto the surface of the irrigation channels, floating like tiny, intricate boats. The autumn is the season of the great harvest, but even here there is no frantic urgency. There is only a focused, communal rhythm, a gathering of the village to collect the bounty that the seasons have provided. You can hear the rhythmic swish of the bronze or flint sickles through the dry stalks, a sound that is both sharp and soothing, followed by the soft thud of the sheaves being bound together with twists of straw. The air is thick with the dust of the grain, a fine, golden mist that catches the afternoon light and makes the entire field look as though it is made of solid amber. There is a deep, primal satisfaction in the weight of a full basket, in the sight of the granaries being filled, and in the knowledge that the labor of the year has come to fruition. The harvest is a time of quiet gratitude, a period where the community moves as one body, their actions synchronized by the needs of the crop and the coming of the frost. You feel the coolness returning to the air in the evenings, a crispness that speaks of the approaching rest. As the fields are slowly cleared and the earth is revealed once again, stripped of its golden mantle and ready to return to the silence. The transition into winter is a slow fading of the colors, a softening of the landscape into shades of brown, gray, and eventually the pure, silent white of the snow. In the ancient world, winter was not a season of lack, but a season of profound restoration, a time when the land and the people retreated into the warmth of the hearth to listen to the stories of the ancestors and the song of the wind. In the chimney, the fields lie dormant under the frost, the soil hardening and resting, its vitality pulling back deep into its core to wait for the next cycle. The work of the farmer moves indoors, to the mending of tools, the spinning of wool, and the quiet contemplation of the fire, where the rhythm of the day is dictated by the length of the candle and the warmth of the embers. You can feel the deep, restorative power of this winter stillness, a rest that goes down into the marrow of the bone, a time when the soul can grow quiet enough to hear the heartbeat of the world. There is a beauty in the starkness of the winter trees, their branches etched like ink against the pale sky, reminding us that even in the deepest sleep there is a structure and a purpose. The seasons move like the breath of a great, sleeping giant in, out, a cycle that has continued for millions of years and will continue for millions more. Regardless of the comings and goings of men, you find yourself adrift in this vast, temporal ocean, feeling the tension of your modern life being washed away by the sheer scale of the natural world. The ancient farmers did not try to fight the winter or hasten the spring. They accepted each season as a necessary and beautiful part of the whole, understanding that you cannot have the harvest without the fallow time, and you cannot have the flower without the seed. This acceptance is the key to the peace you feel now, a sense that you are exactly where you are supposed to be, moving at the pace you were always meant to move. You think of the grain as it sits in the dark bins, a reservoir of summer sun kept safe against the cold, and the way it will eventually be ground into the flour that sustains the life of the village. Everything is a transformation, a constant shifting of form and energy that remains anchored in the same unchanging earth. You are walking through the seasons now, feeling the warmth of the summer sun on your skin, then the cool moisture of the autumn rain, and finally the crisp, clean air of the winter morning. Each sensation is a gift, a reminder of your physical connection to the world around you, a connection that is often forgotten in the noise of the city. Here, in the ancient valley, the connection is the only thing that matters, the thread that ties the human heart to the soil and the stars. The light is fading further into the deep indigo of the midnight hour, but the memory of the seasons remains vivid and comforting, a roadmap for the soul as it navigates the terrain of the night. You feel the weight of your limbs, heavy and relaxed, as if you are becoming a part of the dormant field yourself, resting under the watchful eyes of the constellations. The rhythm of the breath, the rhythm of the seasons, and the rhythm of the earth are all one and the same, a single, magnificent pulse that is beating within you right now. There is no need to think about the future or the past. There is only this long, slow movement through the cycles of growth and rest, a journey that has no beginning and no end. You are being carried by the year, buoyed by the certainty that the sun will rise, the rain will fall, and the earth will continue to provide for those who listen to its gentle rhythms. The silence of the winter fields is a profound and holy thing, a space where the secrets of the world are kept safe until the warmth of the spring calls them forth once more. You find yourself sinking deeper into this silence, your mind as still as a frozen pond, reflecting the stars in its clear, dark depths. As the silver moonlight continues to spill across the sleeping valley, your mind settles into the quiet, rhythmic sounds of the physical world, moving from the broad cycles of the seasons into the small, intimate details of the tools and the hands that use them. Imagine the tactile reality of an ancient workshop or the corner of a stone cottage where the implements of the field are kept, each one leaning against the wall with a patient, heavy dignity. There is a profound beauty in these simple objects, crafted from the bones of the earth and the heart of the forest, born from a time when a tool was not just a cold piece of machinery but a companion in a lifelong dialogue with the soil. You can almost feel your own hands closing around the handle of a wooden hoe, the timber smoothed by years of friction until it feels as soft as silk and as warm as skin. This wood carries the history of the tree. It came from the slow growth of the grain, the resistance to the wind, the memory of the sun, and, as you hold it, you feel a connection to the raw strength of the natural world. The work of the hands in this ancient landscape is a repetitive, hypnotic song, a series of gestures that have been refined over thousands of years until every movement is as efficient and graceful as the flight of a bird. Think of the steady, rhythmic strike of a flint-edged sickle against the dry stalks of grain, a sound that is a soft, percussive whistle, followed by the rustle of the fallen wheat. It is a sound that repeats and repeats, creating a cadence that stills the mind and anchors the body in the present moment. There is no jarring noise here, no mechanical roar. Instead, there is the clink of stone on stone, the dry snap of a branch, and the rhythmic thud of a wooden mallet driving a stake into the ground. These sounds are the heartbeat of the farm, a gentle layering of acoustic textures that build a sense of deep, industrious peace. You find yourself focusing on the simple act of winnowing, the rhythmic tossing of the grain into the air from a shallow woven basket. Imagine the sight of the golden husks being caught by a gentle breeze, drifting away like tiny insects, while the heavy, sun-filled seeds fall back into the basket with a sound like falling rain. It is a motion that requires no thought, only a steady pulse, a coordination of breath and muscle that becomes a form of physical meditation. The hands of the ancient farmer are a map of their life, etched with the fine lines of the soil and the calluses of honest labor. Yet they move with a surprising tenderness when touching the young shoots or checking the ripeness of a piece of fruit. You feel a sense of quiet satisfaction in this direct contact with the materials of life, a realization that there is a deep soul rest to be found in the completion of a simple, tangible task. The tools are an extension of this intent: the heavy stone quone for grinding the grain, the wooden rake with its hand-carved teeth, the leather harness that smells of salt and animal warmth. Each object has a weight and a balance that is perfectly suited to the human frame, designed to work with the body rather than against it. You can hear the low, melodic drone of the grinding stone as it turns, a sound that resonates through the floor and into the very soles of your feet, a grounding vibration that speaks of nourishment and the steady transformation of the earth's gifts into the bread of life. This is the quiet work that sustains civilizations, the unhurried labor that builds a world one seed and one furrow at a time. There is no anxiety in this work because there is no competition with time. The work takes as long as the work takes, and the reward is found in the doing as much as the result. You watch as a basket is woven from flexible willow withes, the fingers moving with a deft automatic precision, over and under, creating a structure of strength and utility out of nothing but the riverbank's bounty. The scent of the damp willow is earthy and fresh, a reminder of the water that flows nearby and the interconnectedness of all the farm's elements. Every tool is maintained with a quiet reverence, sharpened on a wet stone with a slow back and forth motion that produces a rhythmic, metallic hiss, a sound that signals a readiness for the day to come. You find yourself drifting into the rhythm of this maintenance, the repetitive sharpening, the oiling of the wood, the mending of the nets and baskets, finding a sanctuary in the routine. This is the rhythm of care, the persistent, gentle attention that keeps the world from fraying at the edges. The hands that work the soil are also the hands that cradle the new lamb or guide the heavy oxen. And there is a shared language of touch between the human and the animal, a communication of trust and mutual reliance. You can feel the warmth of the animal's flank, the steady rise and fall of its ribs, and the way the work becomes a shared journey of strength and patience. The plough does not move by force alone, but by a subtle negotiation between the farmer, the beast, and the resistance of the earth, a three-way conversation that requires a quiet mind and a steady hand. As you observe this work, you feel the tension in your own shoulders beginning to dissolve, replaced by a sense of purpose that is calm and unwavering. The simplicity of the tools reflects the clarity of the lifer. Life where the goals are clear and the path to achieving them is written in the soil. There is a deep comfort in knowing exactly what is required of you, in the alignment of your physical effort with the needs of the land. You think of the pottery jars that hold the oil and the wine, their surfaces cool and smooth, bearing the faint fingerprints of the maker, a human touch frozen in fired clay. These objects are the vessels of the farm's memory, holding the essence of past harvests and the promise of future meals. The daily labor is not a burden but a way of being present, a way of honoring the life that flows through the fields and into the home. You hear the soft, rhythmic sweeping of a broom over a hard-packed dirt floor, a sound that cleanses the mind as much as the space, a repetitive whisking that marks the transition from the work of the fields to the rest of the evening. Every action is a thread in the fabric of the day, woven together with a sense of unhurried grace. You find yourself imagining the sensation of kneading dough, the rhythmic pressing and folding of the heavy, elastic mass, the warmth of the yeast and the smell of the flour rising to meet you. It is a task that involves the whole body, a swaying motion that connects you to the earth that grew the grain and the fire that will bake the bread. This is the magic of the farm, the alchemy of the ordinary, where the simplest materials are transformed by the steady application of human care. You feel the weight of the day's work as a good weight, a physical tiredness that is the precursor to the deepest, most restorative sleep. The ancient farmers knew the value of this fatigue, the way it clears the mind of clutter and prepares the spirit for the journeys of the dream world. Their tools are laid down now, leaning in the shadows of the doorway, their work done for the day, yet they seem to vibrate with the energy of the labor they have performed. You are part of this quietude, a witness to the beauty of the handmade and the heartfelt. The light of the small oil lamp flickers, casting long, dancing shadows on the stone walls. making the tools look like silent sentinels watching over the peace of the house. There is no need for words in this space. The language of the hands and the tools is sufficient, a language of action, endurance, and quiet love. You find yourself drifting deeper into the stillness, the sounds of the labor becoming a distant, soothing echo, a lullaby of the ancient world. The rhythm of the sickle, the quern, and the loom are all part of the same great song. A song that tells of the human ability to find harmony with the materials of the earth. You are resting now, your mind as smooth as a polished tool handle, your heart as steady as the turning of the grinding stone. The work of the world goes on, even in the darkness, as the seeds grow and the soil breathes. But for you, the time has come to simply be, to let the memory of the hands and the tools carry you into the heart of the night. The simplicity of this life is a sanctuary, a place where the soul can find its true weight and its true measure. You are surrounded by the evidence of a life well lived, a life of balance and belonging, where every tool is a gift and every task is a prayer. The valley is silent, the farmhouse is warm, and the tools are at rest. Their handles cool in the moonlight, waiting for the first light of dawn to call them back into the dance. But that light is far off, and for now, the only reality is the deep, enveloping peace of a day's work completed. You feel a sense of profound connection to the millions of hands that have come before you, the hands that shaped the first fields and carved the first plows, and you realize that you are carrying their legacy in the quiet of your own breath. The world is a place of steady, reliable rhythms, a place where the work of the hands and the rest of the heart are perfectly balanced, and you are floating in the center of that equilibrium. As you drift further into the dream of the ancient farm, the tools and the tasks become a part of the landscape of your sleep, a series of calming, repetitive images that lead you deeper and deeper into the velvet darkness. You are the weaver at the loom, the farmer at the plough, the miller at the stone, all of them moving with the same unhurried grace, all of them contributing to the great, silent symphony of the fields. As the silver glow of the moon begins to shift, making way for the first, almost imperceptible lightening of the eastern horizon, the story moves from the quiet solitude of the tools and the fields into the heart of the village itself, where the life of the farm becomes a shared breath taken by many lungs in unison. There is a profound and comforting safety in the way these ancient communities gather together, their stone and mud dwellings clustered like stones in a riverbed, huddled against the vastness of the wild landscape as if to keep the warmth of the collective spirit from dissipating into the stars. You can feel the texture of this communal life as you walk through the narrow, winding paths between the houses, where the scent of wood smoke begins to thicken once more, signaling that the first hearths are being stirred into life. This is a world where no one wakes alone and no one rests alone. The rhythm of one household is the rhythm of all, a synchronized pulse that ebbs and flows with the sun. Imagine the soft, muffled sounds of a village coming to life in the pre-dawn hush, the low murmur of voices behind thick walls, the rhythmic scraping of a stone lid being moved, and the gentle patter of feet on the hard-packed earth as the first workers emerge into the cool, blue air. These morning interactions are not marked by the sharp edges of modern conversation, but by a shared silence that is understood by everyone, a quiet acknowledgement of the work ahead and the beauty of the day's arrival. There is a deep, ancient satisfaction in the way the village breathes together, a sense of belonging that roots each individual into the soil as firmly as the barley in the fields. You see the communal well at the center of the village, its stone rim worn smooth by the friction of 1,000 ropes, and you hear the rhythmic splash of the bucket as it meets the cold, dark water deep below. This water is the lifeblood of the community, shared and cherished, and the act of drawing it is a ritual of connection that links every family to the same source. As the light grows, you witness the quiet gathering of the herds, the sheep and goats being led out from their nighttime enclosures by a few quiet figures whose movements are as slow and deliberate as the shadows on the hills. There is a collective wisdom in this shared labor, a realization that many hands make the heavy work light, and that the success of the harvest belongs to everyone. You think of the shared meals that punctuate the day, the way the village comes together under the shade of a great central tree or within the warmth of a large communal hall to break the bread that was grown in the common fields. Imagine the sensation of sitting on a low wooden bench, the wood warm from the bodies of those beside you, as a large ceramic bowl of steaming grain is passed from hand to hand. The steam rises in the cool air, carrying the nutty, wholesome scent of the earth's bounty, and as you take your portion, you feel a sense of profound gratitude for the interdependence of this life. Here, the individual is never lost, but is always supported by the whole. A thread in a fabric that is strong enough to withstand the coldest winter and the longest drought. The conversations are slow and rhythmic, revolving around the health of the soil, the behavior of the clouds, and the stories of the ancestors who built these walls and planted these orchards. There is no need for news of the outside world, for the world that matters is contained within the circle of the hills and the boundaries of the fields. You feel the tension of the ego dissolving into the collective peace, the anxiety of the self being replaced by the stability of the tribe. The children move among the adults like small, quiet shadows, learning the rhythms of the village by osmosis, their play echoing the work of their elders as they build miniature walls of stone or gather the fallen seeds from the threshing floor. This continuity of generations is the heartbeat of the village, a promise that the knowledge of the land will never be lost, that the hands of the future will be as skilled and as patient as the hands of the past. As the afternoon sun begins to lean toward the west, the village enters a period of quiet transition, a time when the heavy work of the fields slows down and the focus shifts back toward the intimacy of the home. You watch the way the light catches the textures of the village, the rough grain of the timber, the woven complexity of the thatch, the smooth, cool surfaces of the storage jars, and you realize that every object in this space is a testament to the power of human cooperation. No one made these things in isolation. The house was built by a dozen pairs of hands. The cloth was woven by a group of women singing in unison, and the tools were forged in a fire fed by the collective efforts of the wood gatherers. This sense of shared purpose creates an atmosphere of immense calm, a sanctuary where the spirit can rest because it knows it is part of something enduring and kind. You find yourself sitting on a doorstep as the shadows grow long, watching the return of the laborers from the fields, their silhouettes moving with a weary but contented grace against the golden sky. There is a quiet beauty in this homecoming, a sense of completion that marks the end of the day's physical exertion. The tools are returned to their places. The animals are settled with a few soft words and a pat on the flank, and the village begins to draw inward, its energy contracting toward the warmth of the hearths. The evening meal is a time of soft light and long shadows, where the flickering flames of the oil lamps create a world of amber and bronze. You can hear the rhythmic sound of a distant flute or the steady beat of a drum, a music that is not meant to entertain but to ground the soul in the ancient rhythms of the earth. The stories told around the fires are not new. They are the same stories that have been told for 1,000 years. myths of the sun and the moon, legends of the first seed and the great rains, narratives that provide a map for the soul's journey through the world. You feel yourself being woven into these stories, your own identity blurring with the characters of the past until you are simply a part of the eternal human experience. The peace of the village is a thick, tangible thing, a blanket of quietude that settles over every rooftop and every threshold. As the night deepens, the conversations fade into whispers, and the whispers fade into the comfortable silence of a community at rest. You think of the rows of sleeping figures within the houses, their breath rising and falling in a collective wave, a sea of tranquility that mirrors the stillness of the fields outside. This is the ultimate security, the knowledge that while you sleep, your neighbors are sleeping too, and that together you form a fortress of peace against the darkness. The stars above the village are like the eyes of the ancestors, watching over the descendants of those who first broke the ground and tamed the wild grain. You feel a sense of profound relaxation in this shared existence, a realization that you do not have to carry the weight of the world on your own shoulders, for the world is being carried by the hands of everyone you know. The village is a living organism, a body that knows how to heal itself, how to feed itself, and how to rest. You find yourself drifting into a state of deep, meditative calm, your mind as still as the village square after the last lamp has been extinguished. The only sounds are the natural ones, the hoot of an owl in the orchard, the sigh of the wind through the thatch, the occasional crackle of a cooling hearth, sounds that only serve to emphasize the depth of the surrounding quiet. You are safe here, protected by the walls of the community and the rhythms of the ancient life. The journey through the village is a journey into the heart of human connection, a reminder that we are at our most peaceful when we are in harmony with those around us. As you prepare to move into the next phase of this long, immersive dream, you carry the warmth of the village hearth within you, a steady flame that illuminates the darkness of the night. The memory of the shared bread and the quiet conversations is a balm for the spirit, a source of strength that will sustain you through the hours of sleep. You are part of the village, part of the fields, and part of the great turning wheel of the world. The night is a sanctuary, the earth is a cradle, and the collective rest of the community is a song that sings you into the deepest levels of peace. You feel the heaviness of your limbs, the softness of the air, and the absolute certainty that the sun will rise on a world that is stable, providing, and kind. The village is dreaming now, a shared dream of growth and harvest, of rain and sun, of life and love. And you are dreaming with it, a quiet traveler in the ancient landscape of the soul, where the rhythms of the farm and the rhythms of the heart are one and the same. You sink deeper into the velvet folds of the night, letting go of the last remnants of the modern day, until there is nothing left but the pulse of the village and the silence of the stars. This is the place where you belong, the place where the story of humanity began, and the place where you can finally find the rest you have been seeking. The ancient world is not a place of the past. It is a state of being, a quality of time that is always available to those who know how to listen. You are listening now, and the message of the village is a simple one. You are not alone. You are cared for, and the rhythms of the earth will always lead you home. The shadows are long and soft. The air is sweet with the scent of dried herbs and cooling stone, and the peace of the collective rest is absolute. The moon has now reached the absolute pinnacle of its slow and silent journey across the velvet vault of the sky, casting a light so pure and silver that the ancient fields below seem to be covered in a fine layer of luminous dust. In this midnight hour, the village has settled into a state of profound stillness, and the focus of the world shifts outward once more, beyond the stone walls and the dying embers of the hearths, into the vast, open expanse of the resting land. To stand at the edge of the grain now is to witness the earth in its most intimate and private moment, a time when the soil and the stalks are no longer striving toward the sun, but are drinking deeply from the cool, dark well of the night. You can feel the temperature of the air has dropped to a perfect, refreshing crispness, a clarity that seems to sharpen the scent of the damp earth and the curing hay until they are the only things that exist. The fields under the moonlight are not empty. They are full of a quiet, rhythmic breathing that you can hear if you let your own breath become as slow as the shadows of the trees. It is a soft, multi-layered respiration, the sigh of the wind as it brushes over the heavy heads of barley, the creak of a wooden fence settling into the cooling ground, and the rhythmic, low-frequency thrum of the insects that live in the roots of the clover. This is the heartbeat of the land at rest, a steady and reassuring pulse that anchors the world in its place and tells the stars that all is well. As you walk with a step that is lighter than a fallen leaf, you pass the enclosures where the animals are gathered, their large, dark forms huddled together for warmth and companionship. You can hear the rhythmic, liquid sound of an ox chewing the cud in its sleep, a slow and grinding cadence that has been part of the night's music since the first pens were built of stone and thorn. The sheep are a sea of soft, grey humps in the moonlight, their breathing creating a gentle, communal mist that rises into the air like a phantom, a visible sign of the life that continues to burn steadily even in the deepest slumber. There is no fear in these animals, only a profound and instinctive trust in the safety of the fold and the reliability of the morning. You find yourself leaning against a wooden gate, feeling the rough, cool texture of the timber beneath your palms. And as you watch the animals, you feel your own body taking on their quality of absolute relaxation. Every muscle in your frame seems to be lengthening and softening, mirroring the way the hills themselves seem to sag and spread under the weight of the dark. The sky above is a masterpiece of indigo and silver, where the stars are not distant points of light but ancient companions that have guided the farmer's hand and the voyager's path for an eternity. They pulse with a slow, crystalline energy, a silent flickering that matches the flickering of the fireflies in the tall grass at the field's edge. This world is a closed loop of harmony, a place where the light of the stars and the life of the soil are in constant, quiet communication. You think of the grain roots reaching down into the dark, receptive earth, sensing the coolness of the night and the pressure of the stones, drawing up the minerals and the memories of the mountain runoff to store them for the growth of the coming day. Even in this stillness, there is a magnificent, invisible labor occurring, a labor of restoration and cell building, a silent expansion that occurs only in the absence of the sun. The ancient farmers knew this, and they respected the night as a sacred time of replenishment, a period where the land was allowed to be itself, free from the touch of the tool or the weight of the foot. You find a low stone wall at the edge of the furthest field, where the cultivated land meets the wild forest, and you sit there for a long time, watching the way the moonlight creates silver rivers across the swaying wheat. The motion of the grain is hypnotic, a slow, undulating wave that starts at the horizon and rolls toward you with the grace of the sea, carrying with it the whisper of 1,000 stalks rubbing against one another. It is a sound like the brushing of silk, a soft and continuous hiss that clears the mind of any remaining chatter and leaves only a vast, echoing peace. The trees at the edge of the field stand like ancient guardians, their roots entwined with the roots of the farm, their branches reaching up to touch the moon. They breathe out a scent of pine and moss and old, deep secrets, a fragrance that acts as a bridge between the wild world and the tamed world. You feel as though you are sitting at the very center of the universe, a point of perfect equilibrium where the past and the future are nothing more than the inhalation and exhalation of the sleeping earth. The stillness is so deep that you can hear the sound of your own heart, a steady and quiet thud that reminds you of your place in this grand design. You are not a stranger here. You are a part of the field, a part of the night, and a part of the ancient story that is being whispered by the wind. The silence of the night is not a void. It is a rich and fertile medium, a space where the soul can wander without the need for a map or a destination. You find yourself imagining the seeds beneath the surface, tucked into their dark furrows like children in their beds, sensing the immense peace of the world above them and knowing that they are safe. This sense of safety is the defining characteristic of the ancient night, a time when the boundaries of the village and the field are protected by the traditions of the ancestors and the laws of the natural world. There is no urgency to the passing of the hours. The night will last as long as it needs to, providing the necessary window for the world to heal and grow. You watch the moon as it begins its slow descent toward the western ridges, its light changing from a brilliant silver to a soft, creamy white, casting longer and more ethereal shadows across the landscape. The shadows are not frightening. They are like soft blankets being drawn over the features of the land, softening the edges of the rocks and the outlines of the huts until everything is a blur of grey and indigo. You feel a sense of profound drowsiness washing over you, a heaviness in your eyelids that is as natural and as welcome as the dew that is beginning to settle on the grass. The dew is a gift from the night, a silent rain that waters the earth without the violence of a storm, a collection of tiny, diamond-like droplets that catch the fading moonlight and turn the field into a treasure house of light. You can feel the moisture in the air, a cool and damp caress that smells of the high mountains and the deep valleys, a scent that is both ancient and new. The world is being washed clean by the night, prepared for the first light of the new day with a meticulous and gentle care. You think of the people sleeping in the village, their dreams filled with the imagery of the fields and the sky, their spirits resting in the same peace that you are experiencing now. Their sleep is deep and undisturbed, a return to the source of all life, a time when the individual self dissolves into the great collective soul of the earth. You are part of that collective soul, a thread in the tapestry of the night, woven together with the stars, the soil, and the sleeping animals. The journey through the moonlit fields is a journey into the deepest recesses of your own heart, a place where the noise of the world cannot reach and where the only truth is the rhythm of the breath and the pulse of the land. You find yourself lying back against the cool, solid earth of the field's edge, looking up at the vastness of the cosmos and feeling a sense of absolute belonging. The ground beneath you is firm and supportive, a foundation that has held up the weight of the ages and yet remains as soft as a mother's embrace. You are being cradled by the ancient world, held in the palms of a landscape that knows your name and understands your need for rest. The silence is a song, a melody of stillness that resonates in your bones and calms your mind, leading you further and further into the velvet darkness of a dreamless sleep. The fields are whispering to you a long and slow story of patience and endurance, a story that tells you that you are safe, that you are loved, and that the world will always be there to provide for you. You can feel the slow, rhythmic expansion of the universe, a movement so subtle that it can only be sensed in the absolute quiet of the midnight hour. It is a movement of growth, of renewal, and of eternal peace, and you are perfectly in tune with it. The moon is now low on the horizon, its light a faint glow that silhouettes the jagged peaks of the distant mountains, and the sky is beginning to take on the first ghostly hints of the pre-dawn grey. But the night is not over yet. There is still a long and beautiful window of time where the world remains in the grip of the dream, a time when the most profound rest is possible. You surrender to this window, letting go of the last remnants of your conscious thoughts and allowing yourself to be carried away by the current of the sleeping fields. The scent of the night is a perfume of crushed herbs and damp stone, a fragrance that fills your lungs and relaxes your spirit, acting as a balm for the stresses of the modern day. You are a traveler in time, a guest in the ancient world, and you have found the sanctuary you have been seeking in the gentle rhythms of the fields at rest. The rhythm of the night is a lullaby, a soft and persistent melody that has been played by the wind and the stars since the beginning of the world, and you are falling asleep to its music. As the deep indigo of the midnight hour begins to soften into the first translucent hues of a late summer dawn, the story turns its face once more toward the golden height of the year, entering the season of the harvest with a heart that is quiet, steady, and full of a profound, wordless gratitude. In this ancient world, the harvest is not a frantic race against the clouds or a loud, boisterous celebration of conquest over the land. Instead, it is a slow, meditative process of gathering, a gentle unfolding of a promise that was made in the damp silence of the spring. Imagine the sun rising over the fields of wheat and barley, its light no longer the sharp, searing heat of the high summer, but a mellow, liquid gold that seems to drip from the stalks like honey. The air is thick with the scent of sun-dried straw and the toasted aroma of ripe grain, a perfume that carries within it the memory of every raindrop and every hour of sunlight that has passed since the planting. You find yourself standing at the edge of the great field, watching as the community moves out from the village, not with the urgency of laborers, but with the grace of those participating in a sacred and familiar ritual. The movement into the grain is slow and rhythmic, a collective sinking into the golden sea where each person finds their place with an unhurried ease. You can hear the first sounds of the work, the soft, repetitive whistle of the sickles as they pass through the dry stems, a sound that is as natural as the sighing of the wind. There is no clatter of machines, no shouting of orders. There is only the steady, hypnotic cadence of hands and blades working in a perfect, quiet synchronization. The hands that grip the stalks are firm yet gentle, knowing exactly how much pressure to apply to gather a handful of grain before the blade makes its clean, decisive cut. This is a labor of immense focus and immense calm, where the mind is allowed to drift into a state of semi-wakefulness, anchored only by the physical sensation of the harvest. Each stroke of the sickle is a gesture of completion, a way of saying thank you to the earth for its patient providing, and as the sheaves are gathered, you feel a sense of fulfillment that is as solid as the ground beneath your feet. The sheaves are bound with a simple twist of straw, a task performed with a deftness that comes from a lifetime of repetition, and then they are leaned against one another in small, golden pyramids that cast long, soft shadows across the stubble. You watch the way the light catches the dust motes rising from the grain, turning the air itself into a shimmering veil of amber and bronze. It is as if the entire world is glowing from the inside out, illuminated by the stored energy of the summer sun. There is no hurry to finish the field, for the day is long and the weather is a trusted companion. And the farmers know that the grain must be gathered with the same patience that allowed it to grow. You find yourself moving with the harvesters, your own steps slow and deliberate, feeling the dry crunch of the earth under your feet and the warmth of the sun on the back of your neck. Every movement is a part of a larger, slower rhythm, the reach, the cut, the gather, the binder cycle that repeats until it becomes the only reality. The silence of the field is punctuated only by the soft murmurs of those working nearby, low-frequency sounds that carry no tension, only the comfort of shared presence. They might speak of the weight of the heads this year, or the way the birds are gathering in the hedgerows. But the words are few and far between, for the work itself is the conversation. You feel the weight of the grain in your own awareness, a heavy, golden presence that speaks of security and the coming winter's warmth. This is the fulfillment of the farm's purpose, the moment when the invisible labor of the soil becomes a tangible bounty that can be touched and smelled and held. As the afternoon progresses, the pace does not quicken. If anything, it slows, as the heat of the day encourages a deeper immersion in the task. You stop for a moment to drink from a ceramic jar of cool water, the clay damp and refreshing in your hands, and as you look out over the partially cleared field, you see the beautiful geometry of the harvest, the rows of stubble, the clusters of sheaves, and the vast uncut remainder swaying in the breeze. It is a masterpiece of collaboration between the human spirit and the natural world, a testament to what can be achieved when we move in harmony with the seasons. The birds follow the harvesters at a respectful distance, picking through the fallen seeds with a quiet persistence. And you realize that even in the taking, there is a giving, a sharing of the earth's wealth with all its inhabitants. There is a profound sense of peace in this realization, a feeling that nothing is lost and everything is simply being redistributed in a great, eternal flow. The shadows of the trees at the edge of the field begin to stretch out, long and thin, reaching toward the center of the clearing like the fingers of an old friend. The light turns to a deep, burnt orange, and the fragrance of the grain intensifies, becoming a thick, heady incense that fills your lungs and relaxes your spirit. You are participating in a story that has no end, a narrative of survival and beauty that is etched into the very DNA of the landscape. The work of the harvest is a form of rest for the mind, a way of shedding the complexities of thought and returning to the basic, honest reality of the physical world. You feel a deep, resonant calm in your muscles, a fatigue that is clean and restorative, a sign that you have used your energy in a way that is aligned with the truth of the earth. The sun begins to dip toward the horizon, its lower edge touching the distant hills, and the world is bathed in a final, glorious flare of crimson and gold. The harvesters begin to straighten their backs, not with a sense of relief that the day is over, but with a quiet satisfaction that the day was well spent. The last few sheaves are bound and set in place, and the tools are wiped clean with a tuft of dry grass, their edges still sharp and silver in the fading light. There is a collective pause as the village looks back over the work, a moment of silent reflection on the beauty of the field and the generosity of the soil. This is the true celebration of the harvest, not a loud festival, but this quiet communal indrawing of breath, a recognition of the bond that ties the people to the land. You feel a sense of immense safety and belonging as you begin the slow walk back toward the village, the air growing cooler and the first stars beginning to blink in the violet sky. The grain will be brought to the threshing floor in the coming days, moved with the same unhurried care, but for now it rests in the field, a golden testament to the power of patience. You carry the stillness of the harvest within you, a reservoir of peace that is as deep as the roots of the mountains. Your mind is as clear and open as the darkening sky, and your heart is as steady as the pulse of the earth. The journey through the golden fields has been a journey into the heart of gratitude, a realization that the greatest rewards in life are the ones that are gathered slowly, with steady hands and a quiet mind. The rhythm of the harvest is the rhythm of life itself, a cycle of giving and receiving that sustains everything from the smallest sprout to the highest star. You are at peace, you are at rest, and the world is tucked in around you like a warm, heavy blanket of grain and light. As you drift closer to the next part of your sleep, the imagery of the harvest becomes a soft golden blur in your mind, a comforting memory of fulfillment and grace. The sounds of the datha, whistle of the sickle, the rustle of the straw, the low murmur of the village fade into a single, beautiful vibration that resonates through your entire being. You are the grain, you are the harvester, and you are the sun that ripened them both, all part of the same magnificent tapestry of existence. The night is returning to the valley, bringing with it the restorative darkness that follows the long day of labor, and you welcome it with open arms. The fields are quiet now, the sheaves standing like silent sentinels in the moonlight, and the air is still and sweet. You sink deeper into the softness of your rest, your breath matching the slow, rhythmic exhalation of the harvested land. There is no more work to be done, only the quiet appreciation of what has been gathered and the trust that the earth will continue to provide. You are floating in a sea of golden peace, carried by the currents of the ancient world toward a state of perfect and eternal tranquility. The memory of the harvest is a light that guides you through the shadows, a warmth that keeps you safe in the heart of the night. You are home in the gentle rhythms of the earth, and the story of the fields continues to unfold in the silence of your soul, a narrative of beauty, patience, and the enduring power of the harvest without hurry. The stars are bright and steady above the sleeping valley, and you are resting in their light, a quiet traveler in a land of grace. The journey is long, but the path is soft, and every step leads you closer to the heart of the mystery. You are at peace, you are at rest, and the world is dreaming with you, a dream of golden grain and silver moonlight, of steady hands and grateful hearts. The cycle continues, the wheel turns, and you are a part of it all, a small and beautiful thread in the eternal fabric of the ancient farm. You feel the heaviness of your limbs, the clarity of your mind, and the absolute stillness of your spirit as you move deeper into the velvet darkness. The harvest is done, the storehouses are filling, and the earth is preparing for its own well-earned rest. As the golden light of the harvest finally settles into the deep, cooling shadows of the late year, the story turns its gaze away from the bounty of the grain and toward the quiet, profound dignity of the fields that have given everything and are now invited to simply be. This is the time of the fallow, the period where the earth draws a long, slow breath after the exertion of the summer, and the landscape settles into a state of beautiful, empty stillness. Imagine walking through the rows where the wheat once swayed, now a clean expanse of stubble and dark earth, open to the sky and the wind, resting in the quiet satisfaction of a task completed. In this ancient world, the fallow was not an absence of life, but a different kind of lavinga, deep, cellular restoration that occurred in the silence of the unplowed ground. You can feel the change in the atmosphere as you move through these open spaces. The air is wider, the horizons feel further away, and the weight of the production has been replaced by the lightness of the rest. There is no longer the sound of the sickle or the rustle of the stalks. Instead, there is the long, sweeping sigh of the autumn wind as it travels across the bare ridges, carrying with it the scent of distant rain and the cold clarity of the mountains. You find yourself slowing your pace to match this new, sparse rhythm, a movement that is deliberate and reflective, as if every step is a word in a poem about the necessity of stillness. The empty rows are a sanctuary for the mind, a place where the clutter of the day can be laid down and left behind, just as the grain was gathered and taken to the storehouses. You watch the way the light catches the turned earth, highlighting the rich, dark textures of the silt and the small white stones that have been unearthed by the season's labor. This is the foundation of everything, the raw material of the world, resting now in a state of pure potential. The ancient farmers looked upon these empty fields with a different kind of gratitude than they felt for the harvest. It was a gratitude for the endurance of the land, for its ability to replenish itself in the dark and the cold. They knew that the strength of the next year's crop was being built right now. In the quietude of the fallow, as the nutrients settled and the soil regained its balance, you feel a sense of profound relief in this emptiness, a realization that you, too, are allowed to have seasons where nothing is expected of you, where you can simply lie open to the elements and wait for your own strength to return. The landscape is a study in minimalism, a tapestry of browns, greys, and pale ochres that soothes the eyes and calms the spirit. You see a lone hawk circling high above the resting ground, its wings motionless as it rides the thermal currents, a silent observer of the peace that has descended upon the valley. The world feels immense and uncomplicated, a place where the only priority is the slow, steady process of recovery. You find a place to sit on an old stone boundary marker, the surface cool and weathered by centuries of frost and sun, and as you look out over the fallow fields, you feel the tension in your mind beginning to unravel like a length of old twine. The silence here is not empty. It is a dense, supportive medium that holds you in its embrace, a silence that is full of the echoes of the seasons and the promises of the future. You think of the wild herbs beginning to creep back into the margins, the hardy thyme, the resilient yarrow, the soft clover, each one a small pioneer reclaiming the ground for the wild world while the farm takes its rest. This mingling of the wild and the cultivated is a reminder of the delicate balance that defines the agricultural life, a partnership that is never truly broken, only shifted in its focus. The rhythm of the fallow is the slowest rhythm of all, a cadence that moves with the speed of the drifting clouds and the turning of the constellations. It is a time for the soul to grow deep, for the thoughts to settle like the dust in the furrows, and for the heart to find its natural, unhurried pace. You can hear the distant, melodic clink of a bell from a goat wandering near the woods, a sound that feels as though it is coming from another world, so deep is the stillness of the field. The light is changing, the long, horizontal rays of the late afternoon sun casting shadows that make the rows look like the ripples on a dark, silent lake. You follow these shadows with your eyes, feeling yourself being drawn into the depths of the landscape, becoming a part of the resting earth. There is no anxiety about what comes next, for the next is months away, hidden behind the curtain of the winter and the mist of the spring. For now, there is only the present moment, the cool air and the solid ground. You find yourself reflecting on the beauty of the empty hand, the quiet satisfaction of having given your best and being able to walk away with a clear heart. The ancient farmers did not see the fallow time as a waste. They saw it as a sacred trust, a period of honoring the land's need for autonomy. They left the fields to the wind and the rain, knowing that the earth knew exactly how to heal itself if it was only given the space. You are learning that same wisdom now, allowing yourself the space to be empty, to be quiet, and to be still. The world around you is a temple of rest, where the pillars are the trees and the roof is the vast indigo sky. And you are a pilgrim who has finally reached the sanctuary. The scent of the earth is stronger here, a deep mineral fragrance that speaks of the very bones of the world. A smell that is both grounding and elevating. It fills your lungs and cleanses your thoughts, leaving you as clear and as open as the fields themselves. As the sun dips below the horizon, leaving a trail of soft violet and bruised gold, the fallow fields take on an ethereal quality, as if they are glowing with an inner light. This is the glow of restoration, the quiet energy of life turning inward to its source. You feel a heaviness in your limbs that is not weariness but a deep, comforting connection to the gravity of the earth. You are being pulled toward the ground, invited to rest your head on the cool, damp grass of the margin and watch the stars appear one by one in the gathering dark. The transition from the day to the night in the fallow fields is the most peaceful transition of all, for there are no animals to settle and no tools to put away. The work was finished weeks ago, and the rest is now absolute. You are floating in a sea of tranquility, the boundaries of your physical self softening until you are as wide as the valley and as deep as the soil. The silence of the night is a blanket, warm and protective, and you pull it up around your shoulders, surrendering to the deep, restorative sleep of the ancient world. You think of the millions of years the earth has been doing this growing, giving, and resting, and you realize that you are part of a process that is as old as the stars and as reliable as the tides. This continuity is the ultimate source of peace, a knowledge that the world is stable and that your place in it is secure. You are resting in the memory of the soil, in the quietude of the empty rows, and in the gentle rhythms of a life that knows when to labor and when to let go. The journey through the resting fields is a journey into the heart of your own tranquility, a path that leads back to the simple, enduring truths of existence. You find that your breath has become a slow, rhythmic movement that matches the sighing of the wind in the bare hedges, a deep and steady ebb and flow that carries you further into the darkness. The stars are bright and clear above you, their light a silent promise of the return of the sun. But for now, the darkness is your home. You are safe, you are held, and you are at peace in the heart of the ancient farm. The fields are whispering to you, not of work or of harvest, but of the beauty of being, of the strength that is found in the stillness, and of the love that is expressed in the act of waiting. You are the field, you are the earth, and you are the rest, all of it woven together into a single, magnificent tapestry of peace. As you drift deeper into the velvet folds of the night, the imagery of the empty rows and the quiet landscape becomes a soft, radiant blur in your mind, a comforting anchor for your dreams. The sounds of the world have faded into a single, beautiful vibration, a resonance that fills your entire being and leaves you as calm and as clear as a mountain pool. You are at the center of the mystery, resting in the quiet grace of the fallow time, where the only task is to listen to the heartbeat of the world. The night is long and the peace is deep, and you have all the time in the world to find your way back to the source of your own rest. The story of the fields is a story of patience, a narrative that unfolds with the grace of the seasons and the certainty of the stars, and you are a part of it all. You sink further, letting go of the last threads of the day, until there is nothing left but the pulse of the earth and the beauty of the resting fields. This is the place of eternal calm, the sanctuary of the ancient farm, where every breath is a gift and every moment is a prayer of stillness. You are drifting, you are dreaming, and you are held in the palms of the earth, safe and secure in the knowledge that the rest is good and the night is long. The world is kind, the darkness is a blessing, and you are home at last in the gentle rhythms of the ancient fields. Even as the moon climbs higher, casting its silver light over the bare earth, you remain in the heart of the shadow, a quiet witness to the enduring power of the fallow. The memory of the harvest is a distant, golden dream, and the reality of the rest is a present, cooling truth. The shadows of the fallow fields lengthen until they merge into the deep, quiet embrace of the winter, and the story slows its pace once more, moving into a season where the world seems to hold its breath under a canopy of frost and stars. In this ancient time, winter is not a season of struggle, but a sacred period of waiting, a time when the outward movement of the farm turns inward, toward the heat of the hearth and the silence of the soul. Imagine the first snowfall descending upon the valley, not as a storm, but as a gentle, vertical descent of white feathers, each one a tiny messenger of peace that settles on the thatch and the stone walls until the world is softened and hushed. The earth beneath this blanket is not dead. It is merely resting in the deepest possible way, its heartbeat slowed to a rhythmic thrum that can only be felt in the absolute quiet of a winter midnight. You can feel the cold, crisp air against your face, a clarity that cleanses the spirit and makes every breath feel like a prayer of gratitude for the warmth of the home. The fields are no longer defined by their furrows or their crops, but by their vast, uniform stillness. A landscape of white and grey that invites the mind to let go of all its busyness and settle into the simplicity of being. In the ancient village, the rhythm of life has contracted to the circle of the firelight, where the family gathers to share the stories of the ancestors and the grain that was harvested in the golden months of the past. There is a profound sense of security in the storage bins, the heavy ceramic jars filled with oil, and the dried herbs hanging from the rafters, their scents of summer sage and thyme mingling with the smell of seasoning oak. This is the fulfillment of the farm's long-term promise, the evidence that the patience of the spring and the labor of the summer were not in vain. You find yourself sitting in the soft glow of a dying fire, watching the orange embers pulse like a living thing, and you realize that the work of the winter is the work of trust that the sun will return, trust that the seeds are safe in the frozen ground, and trust that the cycle will begin again. The ancient farmers did not fear the cold, for they understood it as a necessary part of the earth's restoration, a time when the soil is purged of the old and prepared for the new. You feel this same restorative cold entering your own thoughts, numbing the anxieties of the future and allowing you to rest in the absolute present. The sounds of the winter night are few and far between, each one amplified by the crystalline earth-rhythmic crack of a frozen branch in the woods, the soft hoot of an owl from the stone barn, and the steady, quiet breathing of the people and the animals huddled together for warmth. There is no urgency in these sounds, for there is nowhere to go and nothing to be done until the light changes and the snow begins to melt. You are a guest in this season of waiting, a witness to the beauty of the world when it is stripped of its ornaments and reduced to its essential form. The trees stand like silver sculptures against the indigo sky, their branches bare and resilient, holding the memory of the leaves and the promise of the buds. You think of the oxen in their stalls, their massive heads resting on the straw, their breath blooming in the air like white flowers, peaceful and content in their rest. They have done their work, And now they are being rewarded with the warmth of the stable and the sweetness of the hay. There is a deep, ancestral comfort in this arrangement, a feeling that every living thing is being looked after by the great, rhythmic laws of the land. You find your own limbs feeling heavy and relaxed, as if you were being tucked in by the earth itself, covered by a layer of silence that is as thick and as protective as the snow. The winter is a time for the soul to grow deep, for the imagination to wander through the landscapes of the past, and for the heart to find its steady, unhurried pace. You are drifting on a sea of white peace, the boundaries of the village and the field blurred by the mist of the frost, until you are nothing more than a part of the quietude. The stars above the winter valley are brighter and sharper than at any other time of the year, their light casting a blue-silver glow over the snow that makes the world look like a dream made of light and ice. You follow the path of the stars with your mind, feeling their cold, eternal vibration as it resonates with the stillness of the fields. There is no conflict here, only the grand, slow-motion drama of a world in repose. The ancient farmers knew that to live in harmony with the winter was to find the secret of endurance, to understand that the darkness is just as important as the light. They spent their days in quiet repair, mending the tools by the fire, weaving the baskets for the next harvest, and teaching the children the songs of the earth. Every action was a preparation for a future they knew would come, a future that was already beginning to stir in the dark, silent depths of the soil. You can feel that stirring within yourself, a tiny spark of potential that is being protected and nurtured by the rest you are finding now. The fragrance of the winter night is a mixture of cold stone, wood smoke, and the faint, sweet smell of the snow itself, a scent that clears the mind and invites a deeper state of relaxation. You are falling deeper into the velvet darkness, the rhythmic pulsing of the fire and the steady breath of the house acting as a lullaby that carries you away from the modern world and into the heart of the ancient peace. The journey through the waiting earth is a journey into the core of your own being, a place where you can find the strength that comes from being still and the wisdom that comes from being patient. The fields are whispering to you in the language of the frost, a language of resilience and hope, telling you that the spring is not a destination but a part of the circle. You are the snow, you are the hearth, and you are the seed in the frozen ground, all of it held together by the same enduring love of the land. The night is long, but it is not lonely, for you are surrounded by the collective rest of the world, a sea of tranquility that extends from the hearth to the horizon. You find yourself letting go of the last remnants of your conscious thoughts, allowing them to dissolve like salt in the cold, clear water of the winter stream. The only thing that remains is the rhythm of your breath, a slow and steady inhalation of the quiet air and an exhalation of the day's fatigue. You are safe, you are held, and you are at peace in the heart of the ancient farm. The story of the winter is a story of faith, a narrative of the beauty that is found in the absence of noise and the clarity that is found in the presence of the cold. You are sinking deeper, the imagery of the white fields and the silver stars becoming a soft, radiant blur in your mind, a comforting anchor for your sleep. The world is kind, the darkness is a blessing, and you are home at last in the gentle rhythms of the waiting earth. Even as the moon climbs higher, casting its light over the dormant valley, you remain in the sanctuary of the rest, a quiet traveler in the land of the ancestors. The memory of the sun is a warm glow in your heart, and the reality of the winter is a cool, clearing breath, both of them balancing each other in a perfect, harmonious whole. You are at the center of this balance, weightless and serene, as the story of the ancient farm continues to unfold in the silence of your soul. The night is your friend, the silence is your home, and the journey continues in the soft, rhythmic breathing of the sleeping world. You drift further, the last thoughts of the day fading like smoke in the indigo sky, leaving only the pure, radiant essence of the winter rest and the restorative sleep that follows it. You are the field, the farmer, and the land, and in this trinity you find the perfect peace of the ancient world, a peace that will guide you through the remaining hours of the dark and into the gentle light of the future. The story is moving forward with the grace of the turning world, a narrative of patience and beauty that has no end, and you are at the center of it all, resting in the gentle rhythms of the earth. The silence of the winter fields is a profound and holy thing, a space where the secrets of the world are kept safe until the warmth of the sun calls them forth once more. You find yourself sinking deeper into this silence, your mind as still as a frozen lake, reflecting the stars in its clear, dark depths. The ancient farmer, asleep in their hut, is dreaming of the first green shoots of the barley, and you are dreaming with them, a shared vision of endurance and peace that transcends the boundaries of time. The night is long, and the peace is deep, and you have all the time in the world to explore the gentle rhythms of this ancient life, where every breath is a part of the great cycle and every moment of rest is a preparation for the beauty of existence. You are drifting, you are dreaming, and you are held in the palms of the ancient night, safe and secure in the knowledge that the world is a beautiful and ordered place, where the rest of the land is the rest of the soul. The journey continues in the silence of the dreaming mind, a narrative of patience and light that will eventually lead you back to the dawn. But for now, the indigo stillness is your home, and the peace of the winter fields is your sanctuary. You are at rest, and the world is at peace, and the journey of the waiting earth is a song that will sing you to sleep, over and over again in the timeless sanctuary of the farm. The transition from the deep, frozen heart of winter toward the first, infinitesimal quickening of the light is not a sudden event, but a gradual softening of the silence, a subtle shift in the weight of the air that whispers of a continuity far older than the stones themselves. You are drifting in that space where the end of one cycle is indistinguishable from the beginning of the next, a place of perfect suspension where the history of the earth and the history of the human heart are revealed to be the same. Singular pulse. The ancient farm is more than a place of labor and harvest. It is a mirror for the very essence of existence, a living map of the rhythms that govern your own breath and your own sleep. You feel the profound reassurance of this endless cycle, the knowledge that after every season of giving, there is a season of taking, and after every hour of movement, there is an eternity of rest. This is the great wisdom of the soil, that nothing is ever truly lost, it only changes form, receding into the darkness of the earth or the shadows of the mind to be refined, replenished, and eventually reborn. You can feel the stillness of the valley pressing against you like a soft, heavy weight, a cloak woven from the memories of 1,000 years of planting and 1,000 years of fallow time. In this state of total relaxation, you realize that your own life is a part of this agricultural prayer, a series of seasons that move with the same unhurried grace as the constellations overhead. There is a season for the planting of ideas, a season for the steady, quiet growth of understanding, a season for the harvest of experience, and now, the most sacred season of all, the season of the deep, restorative rest that follows the completion of the work. You are like a field that has been gathered and cleared, lying open and receptive under the silver light of the moon, allowing the nutrients of the spirit to settle back into the depths. There is no more need to strive, no more need to plan, for the earth has shown you that the most powerful things in the world happen in the silence and the dark. The seeds in the frozen ground do not worry about the spring. They simply exist in a state of absolute trust, and you are finding that same trust within the center of your own being. The rhythm of your breathing has become a slow, melodic echo of the wind through the winter trees, a deep and tidal movement that carries you further and further away from the fragmentation of the waking world. You are sinking into the bedrock of the ancient landscape, a place where time is measured not in minutes but in the slow accumulation of silt and the gradual shifting of the stars. The story of the first fields is a story of belonging, a reminder that we are at our most peaceful when we stop trying to master the world and start trying to listen to its heartbeat. You can hear it now, a low, resonant thrum that vibrates through the soles of your feet and the marrow of your bones, a sound that is both a lullaby and a promise. It is the sound of the earth turning, of the seasons breathing, and of the human soul finding its home in the natural order. You are safe in this order, held by the same laws that guide the rain and the sun, protected by the same cycles that ensure the return of the green and the gold. The village is silent, the fields are still, and the animals are resting in a state of grace that you are now sharing with every atom of your body. The light of the hearth has faded to a soft, internal glow, a warmth that resides in your chest and radiates through your limbs, melting away the last remnants of the day's fatigue. You are floating on the surface of an infinite ocean of peace, where the boundaries between the self and the soil have vanished entirely. You are the farmer, the tool, the seed, and the land. All of it one magnificent, interlocking whole that breathes with a single, divine intention. The journey has led you back to the beginning, to the state of pure and uncomplicated existence that preceded the first furrow, and will remain long after the last harvest is gathered. There is a beauty in this realization that is beyond words, a clarity that is as sharp and as cold as the winter air, yet as warm and as comforting as the wool of the sheep. You find yourself letting go of the narrative itself, allowing the images of the fields and the village to blur into a single, radiant vibration of light and silence. The night is no longer a period of time but a state of being, a vast and velvet sanctuary where you are free to simply be, to rest, and to heal. You are sinking deeper, the weight of the ancient world pulling you down into the heart of the mystery, where the secrets of the seasons are kept, and the soul is allowed to wander through the landscapes of the infinite. There is no conclusion to this story, for a cycle has no end. It only turns and turns, carrying you with it in a perpetual dance of renewal. You feel the coolness of the frost, the warmth of the memory of the sun, and the solidity of the earth, all of them merging into a perfect, harmonious stillness. The world is kind, the darkness is a blessing, and you are home at last in the gentle rhythms of the ancient fields. Your breath is the breath of the valley, your heart is the pulse of the farm, and your sleep is the rest of the earth itself. As the moon continues its slow descent and the stars begin to fade into the soft, grey light of the pre-dawn, you are already far away, drifting in the timeless reaches of the dream world, where the first fields are always green and the harvest is always golden. You are at peace, you are at rest, and the story goes on in the silence of your soul, a song of the earth that will never end, a melody of growth and grace that will sing you to sleep, night after night, in the eternal sanctuary of the fields. The stillness is absolute, the peace is profound, and you are a part of the endless cycle, moving with the grace of the stars toward the heart of the world. The night is a veil, The earth is a cradle, and you are safe, held in the quiet, rhythmic breathing of the dreaming landscape. There is nothing left but the silence, and the silence is full, and the silence is home. You drift, you dream, and you disappear into the soft, velvet folds of the ancient world, where the only reality is the peace of the earth and the rest of the soul. The story fades, the light softens, and the heartbeat of the fields carries you into the deep, restorative darkness where everything is new and everything is eternal. You are safe, you are at rest, the cycle continues, and you are part of the peace.